Hello and welcome to The Author's Attic, a production of Social Problems, the official journal of the Society for the Study of Social Problems. My name is Erica Lorenzana del Villar, and today I will be joined by Professor Patrick Lopez Aguado as he discusses how the criminalization of the identities of Latino inmates affects the lives of these people within and outside the prison system. Let's listen in.
One of the things that I became curious about was in working with Latino cliques was seeing this sort of repeated identification with this Sureño or South Sider, as some of them would call it, identity, right? This kind of Southerner identity. I decided to research this in Fresno for a couple of reasons. One, it being in really kind of the middle of the state, was recognizing it as this kind of borderlands between northern and southern regions of the state. But it also had this unique history in terms of from the late 1980s, the emergence of this kind of third camp, right, of Bulldogs, or these a group that represented Central California specifically, because Bulldogs were in a lot of ways, or are in a lot of ways, much more contained to the Central Valley as opposed to Norteños and Sureño identities, which are really spread over these large regions of the state. I thought it might be a way where I could perhaps pin down or track down more precisely what was tracing this identity from the prison to the community. What's important about these identities is not only how important they are in terms of navigating and managing this experience of incarceration, but that they're also associated with a criminalized status, right? They're essentially associated with being the affiliates or associates of particular prison gangs. And this is especially true among Latino inmates, who are not only segregated racially, but who are also further split in terms of where in the state they're coming from. And the reason for this segregation, both racially and geographically, is in terms of, at least from the prison's kind of official position, is in efforts of separating prison gangs, right, violent gangs. And so in the process of dividing an entire institutions in this same way, it essentially becomes a way of marking each individual inmate as a supporter of one of these groups, right, as a supporter of one of these gangs. And so each of these identities then becomes embedded with this criminal status, right? It becomes a way of designating someone who's been to prison as with this criminal status. This isn't then contained to the prison itself, right? Because we have these collateral consequences, and because what happens in the prison affects what happens outside of the prison, you have the similar socialization of people outside of the prison itself. And with that, a similar kind of designation of them as criminal. The interesting thing in this was learning how, or seeing how this was learned in two distinct ways, right? One in which this was institutionally reproduced within the juvenile facilities, right, where both the continuation high school and the juvenile hall essentially mirrored the same practice as the prisons, right? So as kids were coming into these facilities, they were kind of investigated, they were interviewed, but an important part of this was also learning where they fit into this social order. As I mentioned, similarly with the prison, this was also conflated with gang membership. So as Latino boys were arrested and brought into juvie, they were asked, which side of this divide did they fit on? If they were Latinos, assumed that they affiliated with either Norteños, Sureños, or with Bulldogs. In the study, most boys didn't associate with gangs or affiliate with gangs. But in the process of entering these institutions, they were expected to align themselves with one side or the other. So this happened in the juvenile hall. This happened as they were transferred to the continuation high school, where they were expected to quite literally pick a side of a divided blacktop that they were then going to spend most of their time at the school on. The other way that this happened was that kids learned about this from their loved ones who were either currently incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. And this speaks to the way that incarceration is really concentrated in their neighborhoods, right? So growing up in the communities or the neighborhoods that they did, from an early age, they saw a good number of people in their lives at some point go to jail or prison. In the process of that happening, they saw or heard about their loved ones going through this same sorting practice, right? They learned about how they were categorized and what consequences this had for them. So you have young people in some of the neighborhoods that are most directly and most dramatically affected by high incarceration rates, learning many of the same identities, both through the relationships they have with incarcerated loved ones, but also because they are also disproportionately sent into juvenile facilities that reproduce the same institutional logic of the prison. Consequently, the prison shapes a lot of what we recognize as criminal in the neighborhood, right? So it becomes a way of something that provides a template, if you will, of identifying gang members among or within poor communities of color.
You have just watched The Author's Attic, a production of Social Problems, the official journal of the Society for the Study of Social Problems. Thanks for watching.